Great. All right. So to kind of kick off, I know you got some limited time. We're only here for about 30 minutes. A lot of these conversations I've seen only last about 20 minutes, so we should be good. But just kind of kick off here. Can you tell me a little bit about Local First and your guys' partnership with Mercy House and kind of like some history behind that?
Yeah, so actually the facility itself is owned by CDP, Community Development Partners. So it is a low-income housing facility that I think has about 113 household units. The average household size is about like 4.3 people. Um, and it is a mix of individuals. And so what CDP has done is in the first level where all their like rental spaces is nonprofits that can offer some level of like free or reduced cost services. And so there's somebody who does mental health services. There are like after school kids programming with Cultural Coalition. Mercy House offers more like social services. And then there's even like a law group in there that does like free first sessions and then does reduced rates for them as well. And then Local First, we are an organization that really works in supporting all local Arizona small business, but particularly our work that's done at that space is we have what we call like a community kitchen. So it works half like a commercial kitchen in that we can have local businesses use it as a space to be permitted and can run their food business out of it. And then the other portion of the space is so that we can have food programming out of that space as well. So, for example, through a grant with Sprouts Foundation, I teach kids gardening and cooking classes. And then we, through United Food Bank, we do the food pantry on the first and third Tuesday of every month. So any El Rancho, the building is called El Rancho del Sol. And so any resident of that community is able to come down during the food pantry. And we turned it into a choice food pantry because we were doing the boxes, but not seeing a lot of participation. And so when we turned it into the choice food pantry, especially as like COVID started, not being as serious as vaccines rolled out, we were able to do that. And it's been really, really, really great. So Mercy House is the organization that assists us in implementing the food pantry specifically. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, holy, it totally did. And I have a follow-up question on that. So you have other businesses kind of rent out the space. Would you guys kind of call almost like an incubator, kind of helping support them?
Yeah, that's exactly what we call it. It's an incubator program. So it's businesses that are, they have to be, typically we hope that they're either from like inception to at least less than 5 years. So we want to use this space. It's a 2-year program. Businesses can only be in there up to 2 years. And we really assist them with scaling their business. So a lot of like my support is in entrepreneurship consulting within the food and beverage space. And so I do that as one thing. And then I do these other like more food literacy, food access programs in addition to that.
Nice. Yeah, a bit of a tangent asking about the incubator stuff. I've been recently learning about a lot of that, looking to do something that myself.
Oh, cool. Well, yeah, you should
Out
give
in
me an email.
Surprise, out in Surprise, Arizona. So it's kind of cool.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's really awesome. How many success, and again, part of the tangent, how many success stories have you seen come from that incubator?
I feel like a lot. I've only been with the company just under a year, about 10 months. But still in this space, we see a lot of businesses with just massive success. We had a couple that have graduated out of the program that are now in their own brick and mortars. There's some that are still, running out of like a food truck. Yeah, there's a lot of really great success stories just within that incubator. The goal too is to really with Youth Rising coming on. Youth Rising is more like as a nonprofit that works with teens and helps them in the workforce. They're coming into the El Rancho del Sol facilities as well. And what we're hoping to do is actually do like a workforce program for teens to get into the food and beverage industry. And so the goal there is that we can, get them their food handlers cards. They can, if they do that, potentially they can volunteer in the food pantry. And then the other piece is that if they wanted to also then get a job, they could work as like a prep cook for one of our many entrepreneurs in that space so that they can live in that facility, work in that facility. And really it's like a community supporting a community.
Oh, cool. That's so awesome to hear that.
Yeah,
Thanks for sharing.
of course.
I know it was a bit of a tangent in what we're going to be talking about. So just kind of segue into that, the social media side of things. How have you guys seen social media support your mission, at least there at El Rancho del Sol? Did I say that right? Yeah.
Yep.
How have you seen it?
So we, in like the 10 months that I've been on the team, I've assisted in specifically like we have like the local first social media. And then we also have like our department's kind of social media, which is Good Food AZ, because we run like a larger flagship program called, the Good Food Finder of Arizona. And so in that, we also really talk and leverage the type of work that we do in Mesa, because it's not just about, as a consumer, finding good local food. It's also about how we talk about food access, food education. And so we've actually grown like over 1,000 followers in that time. And I think how that we've been able to do that is we've really started doing more like storytelling through video. And so we do a lot of reels on that Instagram page. It's just Good Food AZ is the Instagram, for example. But we do, like, if you look in there, actually, I feel like so much of the content is about our food programs at El Rancho del Sol. So it's like, I do the gardening classes with the kids. And so it's a lot of doing garden tours or like showing what does well in the seasons. We've also done, in relation to like the food pantry, we'll post about what it looks like, like a day at the food pantry. Our partnerships, we like will, promote our partnerships with United Food Bank and Waste Not. And then what we've also done is, inevitably there's still some level of food waste if food is like a little moldy or compromised. And so we also partner with Recycled City, so that we can compost any potential food waste, so that the pantry is like truly like a zero waste food pantry. Because what we were noticing that we were doing some level of like food waste when I was early on in the program. So yeah, we leverage like a lot of these types of content opportunities, storytelling opportunities, and just kind of like push that on our social media. And I feel like it gets a lot of interest in, we get like reached out now a lot for people to come and volunteer. I think there was one point where we had a lot of like our even just like the other organizations within the facility. We had one day like all of them coming and participating and volunteering in the food pantry, which I think is really, really great that we were able to do that, because as a facility that's all trying to support these residents, for everybody to understand what that looks like is really, really important. And then now they're able to better, I think, speak about it with residents who might not be familiar with the food pantry and our programs.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you said you gained about 1,000 followers since you guys have kind of kicked it off. How are you guys? Is it like a staff member that runs it? Do you have a volunteer that runs it?
It's me
You? Oh,
and
okay.
one other person. Yeah, it's me and one other person, the individual who does, she works at Local First Arizona, and she oversees like the Good Food Finder directory as well as our farm programs.
Mhm.
And so it's the two of us that create all the content and share on social.
So what kind of, if you could give an estimate, what's that workload look like just for the social media side? I mean, how many hours would you say a week you're putting in on that?
I would say it's I would say it's minimal because of, and I'll just be quite frank, like my previous work was as an integrated marketing manager. And so for me, it's not as heavy of a lift. because making content comes a little bit easier for me. I understand that for some people it is tough, especially if they're not super, on top of trends, or, if they're not super savvy with putting together videos. I mean, making a reel is stitching video clips together. So it's not the easiest thing to do. But quite frankly, we set a goal for ourselves. We try to post at least 3 times a week. Usually what we do is we have a weekly meeting where we discuss what days we want to post what. And again, working at a nonprofit, there's never a moment where I'm like, what could we possibly talk about? Like, we're always doing such cool work, or we're doing something and working with somebody who has a great story to tell. And so it's just capturing that and then getting it on social.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm sure, like you said, you have the background in that, and that's really supports you in that. And then, we see a lot of our partner agencies. They're like mom and pop, older, they're kind of the older generation. Some of them don't even know how to run their Facebook page or things like that, right? So one thing that we're always leveraging and trying to do is conversations like this that are best practices, and tell people, hey, maybe you should bring in think of some succession planning, and bring in some of those younger generations and give them projects. Of course, kind of have that requirement of like, hey, help out in the food pantry, lift some heavy things for us. But at the same time, like, here's a project, run our social media for us, because then that's one, helping them build that content creation background, right? That professional development, but then also kind of like gives them that like, hey, here, this is supporting your agency too.
I would even say, I would like even tell in organizations like that, if they can work it into like their grants, as a way to say, this is really important for us to share these like messages. And that way they can maybe use like a stipend or something to pay like a student who maybe has a little bit more wherewithal to take it on.
Right.
Because yeah, we do that all the time, where if we feel like we need to work in, marketing into the grant writing process, we can.
Yeah, definitely. That's so cool.
I would also say, this is something that I have learned by just working with like the businesses that also are out of that space, is you have a lot of individuals who are really nervous about posting content if it doesn't look really well put together. And I think that that's just like a myth we all made up, because at the end of the day, even if it is like, it could be as something as small as just like, if you have your food pantry, right, and you've put out your boxes of produce, even just showing like a video with some voiceover of like what that day has, if it's open to the public, you can even say that. It doesn't have to be like this huge. I think people think it needs to be this huge production in order to create content for social media, and it really doesn't. I
Right.
think as long as you can connect with an audience and you have a compelling enough message, it doesn't really matter what it looks like. I think people will resonate, and that's the point.
Yeah, 100%. Don't worry about the way it looks, just do it, right? I mean, that's just kind of the message there. Yeah. Cool. Well, have you seen any challenges come through running your social media, things like that, or has it just been all
Yeah,
support?
because I would say the challenges are actually, I wouldn't say so much challenges. I think we do a lot of like tests. So with our audience, it's a mix of people who are interested in food nonprofit work, people who are interested in gardening, farmers, food like professionals. So it's like a mix of audience. I will say there's some content types that just like don't work. Like we have a book club that we do as well to promote, like good, clean, fair food. And we were trying to get a little bit more engagement on social. And so we would ask questions about, in this week's reading, what did you find most interesting? And like nobody engaged. And so we were like talking to no one essentially. But then we'll post really cool videos of like a film that we did, and it just gets so much likes and so many views. So it's really, I wouldn't call it challenges. I would say it's just testing content to see what works and what doesn't. And we also, what I would say is, just because you post one thing and it doesn't get a lot of engagement doesn't mean you should immediately stop. We tested it for like months to see like, okay, maybe it was a fluke, or like let's see what's happening. But really, people, like our audience just doesn't connect with that style of content. So we pivot and we do more video now. We do more storytelling. We do a lot of like education. A lot of people are really interested in like educational tips on our platforms. And so I think it's figuring out it's testing by doing. So I wouldn't really call it a challenge. I think we just throw things at the platform and see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And no, I just had a blank. My mind just went blank. Sorry. Anyway, moving on to my next question, which was, what kind of tools do you guys use? I mean, obviously the simple one, the answer, and like you just said, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just use your cell phone, just take a picture, right? But what other kind of tools do you guys use or recommend using for social media?
I would say, so I like to do everything natively. Like I don't like to use a third party platform personally because we do it so like on the fly. But again, we have capacity to do that. I know that a lot of people don't have capacity to like be on top of trends or to just post more like ad hoc. So they need to plan ahead. If you are going to do that, then the one tool I would say that's really beneficial is using Later. Later is a free tool, software tool where you can upload photos and you can basically log into like all your different social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can schedule your posts. So that one, I would say, like as an organization, if you do have money to maybe bring on like an intern or like an entry level staff member, whatever that looks like, using Later is a really, really good software tool for scheduling. I would also say Canva. Canva is a really good software tool. It's an app as well as desktop, but it's just it's what our company uses to create assets. So if we ever need to make infographics or edit things, that's what we use. And it's really like friendly if you have graphic design, like our graphic designers will also make templates for us. And then I just change out photos within the templates, or like I'll update the text message, but it's already in the fonts that it needs to be in. So I think that like as a departmental tool, those are my two favorites.
Yeah, definitely. And just to capture this on the recording, Later is later.com. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure I capture that on the audio so that way people who listen to this, they can at least access that one.
Yeah, it's later.com.
Yeah, perfect. And then Canva, yeah, we use that here. And then we're also here at United Food Bank. We're actually exploring a new one called Airtable. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that one. I'm looking at Later, and it really has some similarities. Airtable is just kind of like one of those same things, CRM, almost Excel kind of looking things, where you can schedule posts and it automatically will post for you. So it's really cool. And that one's a free. They have a free version. But you can also pay for things that you can also pay for things that are like, get you that extra step. They have like enterprise plans, plus plans, stuff like that. So yeah, really a cool tool. I want to make sure I get that one captured here too, so that people can hear that. So awesome. What tricks or tips could you also say that you use? I mean, hashtags are obviously a big thing, but what else?
Yeah, and there's like, we put the hashtags at the very end and have it be upwards of like 10 relevant hashtags. For a while it was like, oh, you can put them in the comments, but I know that it's like, there's just like all this weird algorithm stuff that happens. I feel like the classic marketing slogan is like, video is king, but on Instagram now, especially, like, let's say you have 600 followers. If you are posting only photos, not even all 600 followers are seeing that. It's like they say 10% of your followers are likely seeing your content, because again, your feed is not in chronological order. It's in order of algorithm, what they think you as the consumer want to see, you as the audience member want to see. And so right now, videos, specifically reels, is the only way to get eyeballs that don't follow you. It's like the only content type that really gets tons of views. For example, we have like we have over 6,000 followers, but I posted something today and it's not even been 30 minutes and over 2,000 people have seen that. If I posted just a photo, it might be seen by like 100 people maybe, and that takes like a full day until 100 people see that photo. So I think that alone is why people should be doing vertical video. The other thing that people can do is that if like they don't have capacity or don't feel comfortable taking vertical video, then make a reel of photos. Say like, here's a day in the life at our organization, and it's just like a bunch of videos set to whatever music backdrop. That at least again allows people to see like, oh, did you do a food pantry day? Oh, what was available? They can see all that, but you're getting 2,000 people to see that versus like a handful.
Yeah, I mean, I'll share an example there. Not related to nonprofit in any way, but my wife had done that where she made a big, she stitched a bunch of photos together with music in the background, and it's just her personal little Instagram that she made with all our photos, right? She shared it, and I think she only has like 300 followers, but that was viewed by like 2,000 people.
Yeah.
And within 20 minutes, she was like, I don't even understand. Like, I don't even know
Yeah.
this many people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that engagement is really, really important. And like you said, I mean, it sounds like it's the king right now. So definitely good to share with our agency partners and things like that. So
Yeah. I will say that it's kind of shitty, but it's specifically just reels. Like if you're doing the video post, that won't work. It has to be like a reel.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes sense.
Oh, and then I would say the other thing too is like tagging and leveraging other people's audiences is always really, really important. One thing that we do, again, we're a nonprofit, so we have a lot of partnerships. We do a lot of tagging of our other agency partners. And we also will sometimes, like if we have an event coming up or if we have like a post we really want to have a lot of engagement around, we'll send it to some of our like trusted agency partners and say, hey, like, do you mind sharing this on your story? Because again, now you get eyeballs on that from somebody else's big audience that probably has similar interests as yours. So it's just a good way to also like grow your audience and share your content with people outside of your own following.
Yeah, absolutely. Sweet. Well, I know we're kind of coming up to the end here. I want to wrap up and then also kind of get a chat with you before off the recording. So two things. What social medias are you guys on? What can we share with our networks? That way they can kind of follow you guys, see what you're doing too. Instagram is one. Good Food AZ Finder. Is that what it was?
It's
Yep.
Good Food AZ.
Good Food
Yep.
AZ.
Good Food AZ. And then so we have Instagram and Facebook, and YouTube is actually under the Local First Arizona, but we have a lot of videos there. We just actually released a series of like Arizona food systems films that are all like about 15 minutes. Those are really, really great because, we have a plethora of speakers from different like agencies that I'm sure you're very familiar with, like Pinnacle and all them. So yeah, the YouTube channel is also really great for more long form video.
Great. Perfect. And we'll make sure we capture that so people who listen can follow you guys on all of those. Next question, last question is if an agency was like, I love what she was talking about, how can I learn more? Can they connect with you, or is there another place that they can go to that you recommend? I know you got a lot going on. We don't want to take away from your capacity, but we want to make sure we're keeping that lateral capacity building happening too. So.
Yeah, no, it's technically a part of my job. So yeah, if anybody wants to reach out and they're a local Arizona organization that just needs like assistance in marketing or whatever it might be, even like food access connections, whatever that looks like, they are more than welcome to email me.
Great. Perfect. And I'll put that email in the newsletter so that way they can all see that too. So awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time. I'm going to close this recording off.
Awesome.
If I can figure